It lasted until 1974, and it was a very well-known institution among independent institutions, and especially institutions for educating women. It didn't admit men until the late 60s, somewhere around 66 or 67, I believe. And so men were never a major presence on that campus. It was throughout most of its history an institution for women. And so suddenly they found that they were growing in popularity, but not at a fast enough rate to offset in fees the cost of their encumbrances for new buildings and the like. So they got into financial trouble. And President Shriver at Miami entered into negotiations with President Spencer, and that resulted in a document called Affiliation and Merger in 1974. But basically, Miami took over the campus. They paid off the outstanding debt of $3.4 million, I believe it was, and acquired all the property. Whereupon, and they did not retain the faculty and staff, and all the students left for other places. The deal was that the Western faculty were offered positions at Miami if the department would accept them. Most departments at that time were experiencing a lot of enrollment growth in students and insufficient faculty members to deliver their teaching. And so they asked the then provost, David Brown, if we accept Professor X, who's in our field, into our department, say he's a professor of American history, but we really need to hire a professor of German history as our greatest need. If we accept the professor of American history, will we also be able to fill our open position in German history? And I understand that the provost said no, and so that's why so very few faculty members were hired. There was no agreement that they would automatically be hired. There was a provision whereby they could be hired, but the economic circumstances were made such that it was very rare that they were hired. So more administrators came over than faculty members. The ones who left were quite disillusioned, and there was a great deal of trauma and bad feeling about it. They had about 28 faculty and staff there, and so that was a big impact on this community. To my knowledge, the ones who continued to work for Miami enjoyed their work. They stayed at it until they retired. One faculty member named Alice Fox became a faculty member in the English department and served out her full distinguished career as a professor. She was a very well published and highly regarded faculty member. Another faculty member who's now retired at the Knolls came over to the College of Arts and Science as a student advisor. She might have had an appointment in the sociology department, but she was principally in the dean's office. Let's see, the faculty member who was the provost or the dean at academic dean at Western College came to Miami and became an associate provost in the provost's office. He was not teaching, but he was an academic administrator. Another who was their treasurer for financial affairs was hired as associate vice president for financial affairs at Miami. There was the lady who was their librarian was kept on in the Western Library, which was Hoyt Hall, until Miami decided to eliminate its use as a library and turn it into a computer center. So her name was Betty Wasson. So she stayed there a few years and then she departed. One faculty member had left Miami's philosophy department and went to Western to teach, but when Miami took over Western, he refused to come back to Miami. One of the faculty, one or two, I know of one for a fact, maybe two, committed suicide. So there are so rough stories associated with that. So it was a very traumatic time for this community.
Shortly after Miami began boarding students in Peabody Hall, stories began to circulate about the restless spirit of Western College's Aunt Helen.
Miami students love to talk about ghost stories. Western College graduates never talked about ghost stories, but they were talking about the same buildings when they had fond memories of the same buildings. So I think that's intriguing.
It has been suggested that Miami University was built over ancient burial mounds, and this might play a role in the reported paranormal activity in the city and township. It's true that there were once as many as 16 such mounds in the Oxford area.
There were two kinds of ancient people who populated this region, Hopewells and Adinas.
If you want to be treated seriously and not like a 70s horror movie, you really can't focus on Indian burial grounds.
Well, they weren't Indians in the sense that you know Indians from like Plains Indians or Miami Indians or southeastern Indians that were present on this continent when European settlement came.
Hollywood and has really sort of ruined that angle for you.
Those people were what we call prehistoric people because, so far as we know, they didn't leave written records, but they were mound builders, some of them, and they also built earthworks. There were low-rise mounds throughout this region.
Does that answer that?
The story on the Miami campus, there might have been more than one here. We don't know for sure. I don't know. But the story that comes down through Miami history and lore is that there was a low-rise mound from the ancient peoples, not Indians in the sense we think of Indians, but these ancient cultures, on the site where Stoddard Hall is today.
This map, obtained from the Smith Regional Library, shows the locations of all 16 mounds once in this area, indicated by black triangles. Miami's main campus is approximately here, and the western campus is here. As you can see, there are none close to either campus. There are, however, several in the vicinity of the Oxford-Milford Road. Our friend Joey Mackey theorized that this could be the force that compels the Oxford light.